Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. What you see right there is sound frequency. If I turned the sound up on that frequency, you probably couldn't handle it. Hopefully everyone that catch this on the playback. Check 1 2. The story of Amun-Ra. Why does it sound so loud and distorted? Let's get it out of the red. All right. I sound like this because I'm telling this story from inside the pyramid. So yeah, late night with Lordship, storyteller time. This thing right here is amazing. It's called a skur well, but skur well. And some of the titles of these things got crazy names, different sounds, or you can make your own customs noise, but there's some preset noise. Yeah, like this one is called Bohr Was Wrong, BOHR. So for those of you that recently been to college or graduated not too long ago or in college, you might know who Bohr is. I didn't make it past junior college, so yeah, the sarcasm is lost. So let's talk about Amun-Ra. People think if they can roll the tongue and pronounce it a certain way that they sound more conscious or more intelligent. But I beg to differ. Now, depending on the period we're talking about, the first, depending on the period we're talking about, the first pharaoh of the gods, as he aged, he heard a prophecy that a child of the sky goddess, Nut, or Newt, and the earth god Geb would succeed him. Okay, and basically what we're talking about is what happened when the rest of the families came along. This part is really ghetto about Egyptian times, all right? All right. So let me talk about the multiplicity counterparts of the roles and the relationships. Okay. It's very diverse, very intricate, but we're just gonna talk about this little component, all right? Because the gods had various yet simultaneous relationships with each other, and the purpose was served by them. And being so ancient, they believe the system it evolved and it evolved over many centuries. And today, it's lost its concept and practices, and we can only connect educated dots, so to speak, to to satisfy our concerns. But we wasn't there. So anyway, Newt and the earth god Geb would succeed Amun-Ra, because Amun-Ra was the first. It was Ra and Amun united at one point. Newt was already pregnant. Thus, Ra forbade her birth because she would have gave birth to the heir. And Ra wasn't ready to step down yet, okay? But an heir was needed because, eventually. So, Ra forbade her birth, her children on any day of the year to protect his position. He forbade her birth on any day of the year, all right? And before we had the 365-day year, it was a 360-day year, which started in those times. All right. So I'm going to tell you how the extra 5 days came in the calendar. And I'm speaking to myself, but it's late night. I know about the time zones, and this is for the almighty playback, because sometimes it's just easier to go live than to make a video. So let me put my homeboy up there. You know who can pronounce these words pretty good? Like Brother Polite. And of course, Dr. Malachi Z. York can pronounce the hell out these words, but literally, literally. So yeah. Hold on 1 second. Getting the divine art together. There we go. Yeah. So this frequency is hiding Amun-Ra on the left, but he's behind the frequency on the left. All right, so here we go. Where was we? Matter of fact, let me hide the frequency for now, because this art is very nice. Okay, there we go. I taught a class on the OBS Studio earlier, so it kind of took the wind out of me. And also, if I was using Egyptian horoscopes to tell you my birth sign, I would follow under the birth sign Horus in Egyptian astrology. I would follow under the birth sign Horus. So like I was saying, Nut was already pregnant. Thus, Ra forbade her birth her children on any day of the year to protect his position. To combat this, Nut gambled with the moon god Khonsu to procure enough moonlight to create the last 5 days of our current year. And of course, Khonsu was the, he controlled the moon and all of that, the evening. They had a god for everything, Luckily, they didn't have gasoline and all that stuff. It would be the god of fuel. It'd be the god Kfuel, Kfuel. All right, they had a god for every single thing. They probably had a god for sinuses. The god Sinu us. All right. Yeah, so anyway, according to the myth, there was once only 360 days to the year. She birthed each of her 5 children on one of these days. Her children were Osiris, Set, Isis, Nephthys, and Horus. So on each of these 5 extra days, she birthed a child. All right. This is just the beginning story, depending on what period you want to start in those times. This is like the Adam and Eve story of Egypt, because this story was before that story, but that's a whole nother argument. So now here's where it gets real ghetto. All right. Isis married her brother Osiris and Set his sister Nephthys. These relationships will be important later on. Isis poisoned Ra. All right. Now Ra was like, you know, the creator, you know, like of everything. So anyway, I'm just simplifying it for people and trying to keep the story interesting. I do have the book of the dead at home. I have the book of the coming by day and by night. We Afro Americans like to pronounce it Metter Netter, but I'm sure it's pronounced a different way. Just like we like to pronounce the Egyptian ing, we like to pronounce it unk. And I will debate Sa Netter, anybody under the sun. The Egyptian unk is really pronounced ing. You know, we try to use our American way of thought to pronounce words, but just look at the French language. Most Americans cannot pronounce many French words because it's not pronounced the way it's spelled. And it's the same in Egypt times. They didn't have certain vowels and consonants. They didn't have the letter C. We don't know. They didn't pronounce the letter AU like caught or bought or draft or draught. It was pronounced I, or actually I, like ing. The Egyptian unk is actually pronounced ing because it was the centerpiece of power. It had many different types of metal. You know, what's really messed up is the Egyptian ing would consist of several types of metal, but when you wear it as a necklace, like a piece of jewelry, it's usually made out of one thing, like wood or copper or gold or silver or whatever. But a real life ing or unk consists of several types of metal because energy, they used it to transfer energy into it to go to somewhere else or to do something. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about and to prove what I'm talking about, just look at a conventional light bulb. You can break the light bulb on the ground, and when you see the thing that produces the light inside of a conventional light bulb, that is the ing, that is the unk. It has the same metal as the unk from ancient times. And a conventional light bulb, it's not really a light bulb. It produces more heat than it does light. Therefore, it is not a light bulb. Just like the book of Kama Sutra has 7 chapters, only one chapter is about sex. Therefore, the book is not about, it's not a sex book or a Kundalini book. But I'll say that for later. So anyway, back to the story. Ra was poisoned with the venom of a snake mixed with Ra's own saliva to form a super toxin that caused Ra to become extremely ill. Okay, Isis finds concern, and as the goddess of magic stumbles upon a cure to Ra's affliction, to be cured, Ra gives Isis his true name. You know, she poisons him and then rescues him. You know what I'm saying? Now she wants to be paid somehow. And, you know, so Isis cures Ra but forces him into retirement with his new powers over him. With her new powers over him, placing Osiris on the throne to become the new pharaoh. So in order for her to cure Ra, he had to let her, you know, put him in retirement basically. And then her son, well, not her son, her husband, because it gets confusing because they all related. You know what I'm saying? They all related. Two sisters and brothers got with each other. Okay, but they had no choice. Basically, there was no other options. So so anyway, so Osiris on the throne, he became the new pharaoh, fulfilling the prophecy that first caused Ra concern. He was see this is what he was worried about. So he already saw it coming. Osiris's dynasty was prosperous. Many gods appreciating a new younger pharaoh. However, Osiris' brother Set was discontent. He plotted to overthrow his brother by laying on an intricate plot. And he brought a enchanted sarcophagus, basically a coffin. The sarcophagus sound more like a Bugatti though, compared to a coffin. And shout out to the people that's listening, cause you know this ain't like it ain't no chat type of moment anyway, so it's all gravy. Hopefully I'll talk you to sleep and you can sleep better this morning. So, so his brother brought this enchanted hint sarcophagus to present to Osiris as a gift, saying it would be, you know, it would itself only fit the true pharaoh. His brother said, if anybody get in this coffin and they fit in it, they would be the true pharaoh. So nobody can fit in it. But he knew his brother's measurements. Matter of fact, he measured his brother at a party. All right. So surprisingly, his brother fit into the coffin. And so many gods tried to fit in and out of sport to test the claim in the, you know, but they didn't fit properly. When Osiris tried it, he fit just as Set had proclaimed. However, Set lackeys and allies secured the lid to the sarcophagus before Osiris could exit and sent him into an unknown corner of Egypt. Set then claimed the throne as the next heir, becoming a tyrannical pharaoh. Now, after this point, the story has a few inconsistencies. Just like any story from the hood. Isis is either pregnant before Osiris is trapped or falls upon his phallus later in despair. Now, my personal opinion was, on this part, my personal opinion was she tried to find her husband. She found the sarcophagus in the river. She recovered every body part because he was chopped up into pieces, but she could not find his phallus. And then later she discovered that she was pregnant. Now, she could have been pregnant before he was murdered, but she didn't really realize she was pregnant until after. Now, back to the story, because we're going to talk about the phallus in a second. Whatever the cause, though, she births his brother and son, Horus, the Avenger. All right, Egyptian pharaonic lineage are confusing. The gods sometimes even more so. So we're going to skip over lots of detail. We're discussing the pharaoh of gods, not how they were raised. Horus avenged his father brother by killing his uncle brother, and then assumed the position of pharaoh himself, supported by his mother sister, Isis. Because a lot of people don't know this story, and they might be curious about it. And this is not out of the meta netter, but I do have it in my house. I have the book in my house. But you'll find the same story in that book. Now, they won't word it in this way though, but it's pretty much what I'm saying. So, yeah, it's crazy. So, Osiris in turn becomes the pharaoh of the deceased, ruling the afterlife, just as Horus ruled the realm of the living. So Osiris, when he died, he became the ruler of the afterlife. And Horus became the ruler of the living, and he established civilization. That's right, civilization. Now, back to the phallic that Isis couldn't find. She was very upset that she couldn't find his phallic. So she made a monument to his phallic, Osiris. She made a monument. Now, that is the Egyptian obelisk. The Egyptian obelisk is a tribute to Osiris phallic. There is an obelisk in front of the Vatican. There is one in front of the French consulate and American embassy in France, a real one. There is a Washington monument in Washington, D.C., which is a replica of an Egyptian obelisk. And whenever you look at a church steeple, that is a miniature version of Osiris's phallic. Okay? So, Christianity, my father is a minister and all that. I have nothing against Christianity or any other great religions. But for some reason, certain Christians like to criticize Egyptians all the time. They only want to talk about one dynasty. They only want to talk about the 24th or 25th dynasty. What about the other 23 dynasties? They only want to talk about the last two dynasties when they were highly integrated, many wars after so many plagues. Now they want to talk about, and then they mention Pharaoh as if somebody's named Pharaoh. Every Pharaoh had a name. The last Pharaoh only died a few years ago. All right, that Pharaoh was murdered by his own people. They were brainwashed by Twitter because he was going to make a one continent economy, and it was going to use real gold and real precious metals as the currency, which was unheard of. So let's go back to Amun-Ra, all right? One of the most common gods from ancient Egyptian religions is Ra. Ra is the god of the sun. Ra has three forms of god. The falcon-headed god is the god of sun. He was that form around the middle of the day. And then you have Khepri, the scarab form was from the morning. And Khepri is now a scientific word for the beetle. And then you had Khnum, and his late form was in the evening. He is said to create people with his teardrops. So he is said to create people with his teardrop. And this is just food for thought. I mean, a lot of people don't know about this stuff unless you're in some kind of cult or something, or have some kind of cult belief. There's a lot of conscious YouTube channels and stuff like that, and people will argue for days on things that you said, and my book is better than your book, and I get my information from this author, and he's smarter than the author of your book. Oh, well, your author was Caucasian. Well, my author was black. Your author was actually from Egypt, but yeah, but he's Arab. He's not really a direct descendant of the Egyptians. Yeah, but he was born in Africa, so therefore he's African, and he was raised in Africa. Yeah, but see, they'll never agree on anything. And welcome everybody, because I was not even looking at the chat room, so I appreciate you guys tiptoeing in and not disturbing me while I'm talking. Thank you, everyone. It's all good. This is hella accurate to the thing I have been reading about African gods. That's eerie. Yeah, listen and doze off, because I'm about to go to bed myself, but I just had to get this out. So remember, Rod had several modes, okay? He was one form in the morning, another form in the afternoon, and another form in the evening. We get the word sunrise from Sun Ra's or Amun-Ra's name. We get the word risen, rise, rays, sun rays. That all comes from Ra's name. The word hour comes from Horus's name. Sunset comes from Set, Horus's uncle, uncle brother. That comes from Set. All right. So let me see. Now, he was said to create people with his teardrop. Ra is a very important god from Egyptian mythology. Ra was also the king of the gods. And any pharaoh that thought that he was the best pharaoh or better than any other pharaoh, they ain't seen a pharaoh like me. There ain't no pharaoh. It's gonna be a long time before another pharaoh comes like me. Any pharaoh that thought he was the shit would put Ra's name next to his own name. That's why there's several types of Ra's through Egyptian mythology. But the first one was Ra, and then Ra joined Amun, and Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt was united. But Ra is also associated with the god Amun. Like I said, you see how I could come off the dome? I don't have to ask Google shit. Uh-oh. So, not a lot of people know a god named Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra is also the god of the wind, not just the sun. Unlike other gods, Amun or Amun-Ra was not born. He created himself. He also did not show himself as much. That's why not many people know Amun-Ra. Most people just know Ra. So, and they do have Egyptian astrology. I don't want to give it too much, I don't want to get off into that, but if you was born between April 20th and May 6th or August 12th to August 19th, you would be born under the sign Horus. And Horus rhymes with Taurus. Isn't that interesting? So I would be I would be under Horus. So you see. Now, there was a question about Hathor and Sekhmet. Okay. I want to point out that Hathor and Sekhmet are one and the same. They just have just different aspects of the same being. And let me break out with one of my other nice photos here. Yeah, I don't have much artwork today. Not much artwork. How everybody doing though? Good morning. I think so, C. Wilson. I think so. I think so. It's all good. We have nothing to fear. Anybody that crazy, you know, now I'm gonna make more videos just so she can send it to the president. Because the more videos she send, the more they'll know she nuts. So I'm gonna make more videos just for her to send them. Because if they see somebody went live for 10 hours and then email them some bullshit at 3 in the morning, you know, that's not gonna fly well. Yeah, I like to see that. So, I was talking about Hathor. All right, the myth goes that the people complained to Ra that Sekhmet, who loved violence and whose main task was to crush Ra's enemies, and would often drink the blood of Ra's enemies. That's how bad Sekhmet was, you know. But see, Hathor would beat you up to almost death and then heal you, and then beat you up again if they wanted to. But they was the they was like, well, Hathor was like a bailiff, you know. And but these people were involved, and they stood next to Mayat and other people. These are all part of the judgment group. Okay, you like when it's time for you to be judged, and the way your heart and all of that, and who established the laws and who enforced the laws and or the rule. You know, right? So, but I'm not here to argue. I'm just here to enlighten. So, Sekhmet loved violence, and and their main task was to crush Ra's enemy, and would often drink the blood of Ra's enemy. And instead of slaughtering both those good and evil, Now, they didn't worship Ra, all right, but it was about the alignment in Egypt, all right. They pled for Ra to restrain her because she was just too off the hook. And he did not have the strength to restrain her directly. So while he's still maintaining, while he's still maintaining his duties, so still he couldn't let the people that worship him continue to suffer. So thus he had them present Sekhmet with berries of wine, and it was dyed or naturally red, and it had the people tell Sekhmet that it was the blood of Ra's enemy, but it wasn't. It was just wine. And delighted by the chance of guzzling more of Ra's enemy's blood, Sekhmet drank skull. She drank out of a skull with wine and grew so drunk she fell asleep. Right? And as she slept, Ra transformed her into a goddess with attributes the exact opposite of her previous self. Her love of war changed to love of life. Her destructive tendencies changed to a productive one, etc. Ra maintained the ability to awaken Sekhmet in times of war. However, she remained as Hathor the majority of the time due to her uncontrollable nature as Sekhmet. That reminds me of someone in these YouTube streets. Now, I'll admit that I've greatly summarized this myth. However, that doesn't change my justification for my point above. Hathor and Sekhmet are two aspects of the same deity, just as Khepri is an aspect of Ra. Although Ra was the main aspect worshipped in both Sekhmet and Hathor were worshipped, to a great extent, they should still at least have given a nod to this fact of goddesses' dualities, even if they place her two personalities into separate slots. Now this is, I think, only the two-faced deity that could be given a single slot. Such duality as Janus. That's spelled Janus. Yeah, I'm just, stuff might be knocked out. Well, I know how to wake stuff up. I know how to wake him up. Give me a second. Because I have the power of frequency. I'm going to pick a frequency to wake him up with. Okay? He didn't say anything, right? Got him. All right, here we go. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't say nothing. This sound is called popcorn in the feeding tube. This is called Neighbors Love Xanax. Yeah, if that don't wake him up, nothing will. So anyway, this was Lordship Conscious Moment. Bringing awareness, bringing information. I think Amun-Ra is an interesting story. Who knows where he at? You know, he ran out the bar. He could be behind the car vomiting or taking a piss in the alley. We don't know. Some people get jumped out there in these YouTube streets and they don't make it back in. They go outside for a cigarette. They text someone. They don't want their significant other to know where they're at. And they go outside for the quietness. And while they're not paying attention, they get bamboozled.
We have been citizens to this land, and the UFO phenomenon is real, although it's been covered up.
So I just want to thank everybody for dropping by. Hopefully everybody else will catch the playback.
It's been well covered up by all of our governments for the last 60 years or so, but slowly it's leaked out.
You know, I don't really want to speak on that other channel holder right now because this ain't the time. I don't want to spoil the overall theme of the show, the vibe. But when I come back, either live or in the form of a video, you best believe I got something for you. So shout out to the people that's in the background, chilling. Shout out to Steve Wilson and Observer stuff. I know I got a new subscriber today. Maybe that person is listening. Shout out to that person. All right. Go Jaguars. All right. I feel you, Steve Wilson. Isn't that frequency nice looking? Like that's a real, like what you see is what you're actually hearing. Like if you put sand on a metal plate and you play the frequency where the plate vibrated, this is what the sand would look like on that plate. This is an instrument that I use. It's a noisemaker by Native Instruments. It's called a Skirwell. You there? I can click a button that says randomize all. I could tweak it like this. It's a cool noisemaker. Anyway, yeah, cool. Yeah, your boy is into sound technology. I'm into it all. So, next time we'll play tic-tac-toe. And when we play tic-tac-toe, we'll be actually making a beat with the X's and the circles and the squares. But I'm exhausted. I gotta go. I taught a class on OBS Studio today, late night, and I'm done. But peace and hair grease. Thanks for coming through. Lordship is out. Sound like I'm in a theater.